Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, day it is, sorry, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast with myself and the wonderful Angie Setzer, where Angie will be providing a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I'll get the legals out the way. So as usual, nothing discussed in this spaces session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed the wonderful, the glamorous, the marvelous Angie Setzer. Hello, my love. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Awesome.
It's Tuesday.
What's
So
Can I ask you a question? So I've been tinkering with the microphone on my laptop today. So
yes.
am I too loud? Am I too quiet?
No, you sound great. You
Oh,
sound you
stop it.
sound wonderful.
Oh,
Just
stop it.
perfect.
Stop it. That's all I was doing.
Can't even stand it.
I was
I
just
just
fishing for a compliment. Thank you.
I know. It's okay. You got one. Your hair looks good today
Oh,
too.
stop
I'm
it.
really
Stop it.
impressed. So happy Tuesday,
Happy Tuesday.
everybody. I told you yesterday. What did I say yesterday, Mr. Ryan? Did I say that I had a good feeling about this market
You did. You
yesterday
did.
morning? And you were like, you dumb hussy. And I was
Yeah,
like, I am
yeah.
not a dumb hussy.
I'm gonna
I
hold my
am a
hand up.
smart hussy.
I will hold my hand up, and I did think you jinxed the absolute bejesus out of it.
Well, it's still early in the
Yeah,
week, so
yeah.
we'll see
It's
what the hell
going
happens
away.
next,
We're
right?
doubling down on the
So
jinx.
yeah, that's just it. We'll see. It's early yet, but we did have a good day yesterday. We saw, July corn, December corn really kind of take the lead. And so my first bullet point of the morning, if you want to know, is weather. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect, I'll say, in the market currently, and one that always kind of frustrates some folks, especially if you're in the Eastern Corn Belt, where you are dealing with a bit more in the way of heavy moisture, a lot of rain, just and an ill-timed rain. Like it may not be a lot of rain, but like as a farmer, you understand what I mean when I say ill-timed rain. Like we've been waiting 24 hours for this field to dry out. It's dry, and now here we've got a shower just over that particular, and it might only be a quarter of an inch, and it just stops us. But anyway, you're seeing, and it is pretty obvious. We did get planting progress out last night, which I always take with a grain of salt. First off, those crop progress numbers that you have, there is little to no training and little to no uniformity. Like the FSA is just like, hey, you want to drive around and tell us what you think about the crops? And the people that work for them are like, sure, that sounds cool. Like, do you
Get
have a
me out of
check
the
sheet or
office.
something? And yeah, and they're like, no, you just kind of write it down. You let us know. We'll turn it in. It's not a big deal. And that's directly from Lance at NAS himself. So like, don't think I'm picking on him. It's legit. It's just kind of a bunch of numbers thrown. Anyway, but you do see in the planning progress figures there where there are some issues in Ohio, some continuation of wet weather there. We've got Kentucky, we've got parts of southern Indiana, southern Illinois, down over into Missouri, Arkansas, and points to the south where I'm not saying it's a disaster by any means, but it definitely is going to be something that's going to maybe pull at least a little bit on the ideas that we're going to see an increase in acres versus the March number. And to me, it also is going to be something that makes the cash market much tighter here as we work our way into the summer months, because if you're a farmer in the Eastern Corn Belt and you're like, I'm not really sure what I have, that just raised the value of the crop that's in the bin if you have a crop that's left in the bin, first and foremost. So that's one thing that we are paying attention to that I think will kind of garner some attention of the trade here as we have some, legitimate conversations about late plantings and some of these other things, because that area is expected to stay wet. We also have some pretty extreme weather in China that, more people are starting to talk about, but I think is super important to be paying attention to. We're talking 110-degree heat in a crop that, a wheat crop that's starting to mature, in soil conditions that are exceptionally dry. And it's not just hot, it's windy. And so, the wheat crop is most definitely going backwards. When it comes to in China, there's over a third of that crop that is under these conditions. And so that's definitely something that we're going to want to be paying attention to, because it will influence corn as well. There's about a third of the corn production area that is dealing with some heat, as well. It's early. They haven't planted. They typically plant the crop after they harvest the wheat. But there are reports too where they're going out and harvesting wheat very early. And I will tell you, I live in Michigan, so we very rarely struggle with extreme drought and heat. You know what I mean? But like, I have seen it before where the wheat crop gets rushed, and it's less than ideal. Like the wheat crop runs to a finish. And in any crop, it's not great. You want it's like barbecue. You want low and slow, like not
Yeah.
high and fast. It just doesn't work. So we're watching that. There's some EU conditions that are kind of popping up. And we also have had some flooding in Argentina, Buenos Aires in particular, that's causing some continued issues there. Harvest is delayed. It's typically, around 65% or so, currently sitting around 35% or so across a lot of those regions. And, the thing with soybeans and rain is that you do end up with poor quality. You may end up with bursting of pods and some of these other things, depending on the level of maturity and how much rain you're getting. But really, when it comes down to it, it's just more of a poor quality thing. You just have a hard time getting them dry. They get mushed when they come out. Like it's not a lot of fun. This is someone who's handled soybean harvest on, New Year's Eve, basically in Michigan, where we've had just a shit fall. So been there, done that, got the t-shirt, never really enjoyed it. There's a lot of talk there, though, that Argentina's protein is much, much lower. They tend to struggle with a lower protein anyway with the Argentina bean, just because of conditions. They are a crop, or the soybean in Argentina tends to be the direct competition to the US for the China reserve, because it does tend to store better if it's of good quality.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes,
So
yes,
this
please.
is me putting on my student hat, because obviously I learn more than anyone else on this show. Is this because of the quality of the seed that is going into the ground, as well as being just general conditions? But is there something to do with it,
It's
or is it a mix?
generally no, but yes. Like, I'm going to probably say that an agronomist out there is going to be like, yes, it does have something to do with it. It's a little out of my pay grade. I'm going to say it's not as much of a quality, more to do with probably the growing
Right.
conditions.
Okay.
But yes, there is. I don't want to say this out like wrongly, but I do know that, with how tight things have been, we've talked to Nick in the past,
Yeah.
talked to several folks on the Argentina farmer and all of that. I would say that, from a seed standpoint or from a production standpoint, there may be some things where, because margins are compressed, you may have that be an impact.
Yeah.
But really, when it comes down to it right now, it's more growing conditions and soil
Right.
conditions are the result.
The fact you didn't give me the fact that it wasn't an obvious straight answer means I feel like
There's
I've asked,
not.
it makes me
Yeah.
feel like I've asked a decent question, because it's not like
You
yes
did. Welcome
Ryan
to
or no Ryan.
agriculture. Like, there is really no such thing as a stupid question in
Well, I'll
farming,
put that to
because
the test.
honestly, it is so variable.
Right. Got you.
It's one of those things. And so, yeah, this will be something to pay attention to, mostly because of market share. Like, I don't want to spend too much time kind of, harping on the Argentina bean situation, but, a lot of folks have been like, well, the US can be completely cut out of China bean purchases. That is wrong. That is unequivocally false. And I didn't say unequivocally. There, I said it right without my speech impediment. False. Like, that's just, it doesn't work that
Right.
way. The Brazil bean isn't one for one for the US bean. They don't store as well. So there is going to be a need of China's, no matter what. Even if they told us to go fly a kite, there's going to be a need of 15 to 20 million metric ton of beans, most likely, no matter what. Now it's down from the 30, 35, whatever, but still, let's move on. And so it's one of those things we want to pay attention to and be watching. Weather is huge, and even if weather isn't necessarily detrimental to crop production, weather can impact grain movement, like I said, because if a farmer is questioning what he or she will have for production, the value of the crop that they have still in their hands just went up substantially in
Right.
some instances. So definitely something to be paying attention to, in my opinion, and something, that I think we'll start to recognize here. It's less likely by the day, in my opinion, that we're going to hit the increase in corn acres first off, and even less likely we're going to peg the 181 record yield. So moving on, we had the Trump Putin phone call yesterday. 2 hours of I love you more, you hang up, no, you hang up, that sort of thing. I'm mostly joking. I'm going to guess the last half hour was you. Whoever hangs up first is the weaker link,
Yeah.
and
No.
so they just
There's
sat
definitely
on.
been that
I
much.
hear you breathing. But yeah, we had the phone call. A lot of folks were excited. Ooh, look at the progress. Putin says that he will negotiate a ceasefire if certain conditions are met. Honey, I'm gonna put my hand on your thigh when I say this in the nicest of ways. That's been the line out of Putin since 2022.
Yeah.
And the certain conditions that he wants met is basically give me half of Ukraine, and the other half can never be a part of NATO, the EU, and really should just sit over there and die.
Also,
Like, I don't
Christmas
care.
is
I hate him.
cancelled, and yeah, what else we can throw onto it as well.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things that I also am very optimistic that we're going to get close to something. But you did see the Russia come out today. We're ready for a ceasefire. It's Ukraine that's holding it up, and it's not. That is not the case at all. Like this
Yeah.
is it. I want to scream because I just feel like it's like you're listening to your two friends who are divorcing, and both of them are like sleeping with someone else in the house. Like you're just both like you're both wrong. You know what I mean? You just have to pretend. But anyway, that's where we're at. Just it's one of those things that at this point I think we're going to struggle. The question is, what do we see from a sanctions standpoint? You've got the 17th sanctions package from the EU being announced. That's going to target mostly the shadow fleet of oil movement and some of these other things. People are already pulling for or pushing for the 18th package of sanctions by the EU, which they say they're working on. The US, you've had Lindsey Graham with his bill for a minute. That's not going anywhere, I don't think, until Trump says yay or nay. And
Right.
right now, the big, beautiful tax bill is in everyone's face. So I think really, and I think Zelensky said it this morning, or maybe it was the foreign minister with Ukraine or someone from Ukraine, where they're just like, Russia's playing us. Like they are telling us one thing and they are doing another.
Yeah.
And that's it's reality. And honestly, I feel like you'll see a continuation of escalation unless they're completely iced out. And I don't know if anyone's going to do that in the world. So I feel like at this point you see a continuation of the slow simmer. I hope you don't get the 200 and some odd drone attacks that we've been seeing or whatever, but it looks like we will continue. So
Yeah, well, this is it, and this kind of follows on with what we've been saying. It's like just before kind of there's any positive step, we do see Russia like really kind of ramp it up, and as we've been saying for months that was likely what would be happening, just where they try and claim that final few yards or that final hit to try and get ceasefire over the line whilst they're in a better position.
Well, they know that the ceasefire, any sort of agreed upon ceasefire is probably going to be a freezing of the front line.
Yeah,
And so they want to grab as much as they can.
yeah, no,
I agree. So that's that's where we're at. And they really want to continue like their ideas to find the root cause of the war. We all know what that, like in their mind, that's just the West recognizing Ukraine in
yeah,
general. Like,
yeah, yeah,
um, and so that'll be what we're paying attention to there. We've got some trade things to be watching. Obviously, G7 is going to come and go without any sort of trade deal announced. Apparently, Trump had said he was going to announce something when he got back from his trip. It hasn't happened. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Japan really, that's interesting. They're going to talk with the US on Friday, but Besant's not
yeah.
going.
He's not. Yeah, he's not going to be part of those conversations. And
Yeah.
again, just be mindful. And something that we've almost feels like we raise it daily. Japan, apparently, according to like, their spokespeople, are in no position right now to be making a deal, and they don't want to be making a deal right
Yeah.
now. So yeah, it's been an interesting one. It feels like we did say the other day about Trump is basically going to, or the administration is going to be writing a letter to those countries that haven't even engaged yet, and saying, look,
Yeah.
if you haven't engaged with us by now, sod the 90-day trial, like the 90-day pause. Here's what rate you're going to get. So potentially,
Yeah.
because this Japan conversation seems to have sparked up since that was said, maybe that this is just Japan saying, look, we are engaging, we're just not in a position to sign anything yet. So maybe they're doing this.
Yeah. We're just not going
Yeah,
to.
maybe they
And I mean,
tease
they,
Trump to a certain degree.
they keep pushing for that whole drop of tariffs entirely and saying that they aren't going to sacrifice their national best interest and some of these, like Japan's kind of pushed back a little bit, which has been interesting. But I do think, I think the administration really wants to try to get something done with them.
Yeah,
So I think it's just interesting to me not to have Besant be there, but they continue to push for the complete elimination of tariffs. India, though, is making
yeah,
progress. There is some talk that they may open the door to road ethanol or road fuel ethanol or whatever. They're saying they expect at least a foundation of a deal before July.
yeah,
And so that'll be something that we'll be paying attention to. There hasn't been much in the way of outright progress seen between the US and China. And honestly, I don't know if you will see too much outward progress seen between the US and China at this point. And honestly, like what we do hear from President Trump, like no offense to anyone, but like obviously, like we've learned that take it with a grain of
yeah.
salt. Are they talking? They might have been. It might have been in January though. Like it's just one of those things that'll be hard. You are going to see a big influx of Brazil beans. This has been something that they purchased. They've got like 14 million metric ton of soybeans coming in from Brazil, about a 500,000 bushels. A lot of people are probably going to be like, look it, this is how they're going to protect themselves from the trade war with China. They bought those beans in January. That's stupid. Just ignore anyone
Yeah,
that says that.
details,
Gosh darn.
details.
Oh, it's so frustrating. But we will be watching, speaking of Brazil, bird flu.
Yes.
That is one of the biggest things there. They did discover bird flu in Rio Grande do Sul. Is less than ideal. It's be the first commercial case that they had found. Really kind of a big deal there. It's impacting their short-term demand. Brazil provides like 30% of the world's poultry into the export market, which is interesting. Share that fun fact with your friends. The big concern right now is if they're able to stop it, they're able to
Yeah.
stop the spread. If they can go 30 days without finding a new case, they're bird flu free and no one cares. They move on, everything's good. If they find more cases, then that could become exceptionally detrimental because they just probably aren't going to place the birds back in to these barns for the time being
Yeah.
until they feel comfortable that the market corrects. This could have huge implications for meal and corn. And really, right now, like the market's kind of stopped trading to a certain extent. In Brazil, the corn market has just because people are trying to figure out what the hell. And so you'll see it go a little slow. What tends to happen when you have issues like this that could result in a demand scare is that the seller starts to panic and think, shit, I got to sell this. And the buyer starts to panic and thinks, shit, I'm not buying this. And then the market freezes until it's a no brainer.
Yeah.
And then the buyer is like, sure, I'll take it for 50 cents on the dollar. That sounds great. And so that's kind of what we're watching to pay attention to. Outside of that, not really much of anything, honestly. Like we'll be continuing to watch weather. Trump is going to be heading to Capitol Hill to try to get his big, beautiful tax bill pushed over the hill. There's some issues there. SALT is an acronym that you guys will have to learn or not, but it's state and local taxes. It's about the state and local tax deduction. Apparently, it's a big deal. But yeah, I learned that acronym today, so you don't have to. It's one of the things that's kind of holding up some of the negotiations. There's some pretty extreme Medicaid cuts, some things with the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, that we're watching as well. The reason that bill is important is because it has the 45Z included in it. So some clarification on 45Z and some of that other stuff. But yeah, beyond that, planning pace ahead of average. Cool. Like I said about NAS earlier, market wise, we just popped open. Corn's up 5. Beans are up 12, or excuse me, wheat is up 12. Beans are mixed to lower. Happy Tuesday.
Awesome. Awesome. Angie, thank you so much as always for being your beautiful, wonderful self. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in. And yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow for some more updates. Take care.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about. Have a good one.